I'm Scott Reese, ACBR Education Chairman, and with me is our Vice Chair, Jim Caswell. Since we will not be able to gather together for several months and host some terrific education seminars, we want to find other ways to reach out to our members. Also, we realize that we are experiencing rapid changes in our industry, and we want to do all we can to bring you the most relevant, up-to-date information. Therefore, we are going to present weekly video snacks for our members until we can get back to our regularly scheduled monthly seminars. We will be putting these together on a regular basis and plan on hosting at least 1 to 2 times each week, depending on availability of our guest speakers. Just like everyone else, we'll be doing these from our homes, so please excuse any interruptions.
Thank you, Scott. And this is Jim Caswell. We'd like to say first and foremost that none of this would be possible without the support of our annual corporate sponsors and our annual education sponsors. They have been longtime supporters of the ACBR, and let's be sure the next time you have a video chat or you see one of our sponsors, you thank them for their support. We hope you enjoy the videos. We hope that you stay safe out there.
So on behalf of the Education Committee and our commercial board, we are excited to bring you these important and timely conversations, and we hope you enjoy our snacks.
Hi, I'm Scott Morchower, Director and Associate Broker with KW Commercial Perimeter Office and Vice President of AGREE, the Association of Georgia Real Estate Exchangers. On behalf of the ACBR Education Committee, today I have the pleasure of speaking with Whitney Brennan, Vice President of Investment Property Exchange Services, a national company with more than 30 years of experience providing proven exchange solutions.
Hey, Scott. Hey, Scott. Nice to see you today.
Good to see you.
Thanks for having me, and look forward to speaking with you.
It's great. So that's terrific, and I'm glad we're together. Let's get started. I know that the coronavirus pandemic is affecting all areas of the real estate industry. We're facing abrupt slowdowns. Can my clients get an extension on declaring closing on 1031 exchange properties?
No, but we do have some promising news. Yesterday, the IRS Chief Counsel from the IRS had a webinar, just like we are now, discussing a possible extension under tax code 7508. And if you're not familiar with that tax code, that's the tax code that gives extensions when the president declares a presidential disaster. And as you know, that happened about 3 weeks ago. And so one of our attorneys reported back that they're looking at all the deadlines that could be extended under that disaster. And they expect to, in the Chief Counsel's words, expect to release guidelines soon. So that would be a great win for those that have 1031s. We expect to have extensions to both the 45 days and the 180-day deadlines for 1031 exchange.
Interesting. That's great news. So let's say we're in the middle of an exchange process right now. How should I advise my client then? Should the client declare something just to buy some time and so that when that waiver does happen, that they're covered?
That's a great question. What we're actually advising our clients is to identify within the 45 days. And we're also advising our clients to keep their money with us. Because if they were to, let's say, not identify any property and get their proceeds back and the extension comes down, or I should say, is granted, which we expect that it will now that we're hearing these encouraging words from the Chief Counsel, if the client does pull their money out, it won't be, I shouldn't say, you can't put your money back into the exchange because you will have had actual receipt of funds. So we're advising people to keep their money with their qualified intermediary because we're hopeful now, very hopeful that these guidelines will be passed soon.
Have they given you any kind of timeline?
No, but we're very hopeful because they specifically said they expect to release guidelines soon. What does soon mean? Your guess is as good as mine.
I think I'll advise my client that's on the edge to go ahead and just declare something to buy some time. I think that's
Yeah.
great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you. How long must an investor using a 1031 exchange rent out a vacation property or a residential investment property before taking residence themselves and maintaining a 1031 tax deferral?
That's a great question. The answer is actually described within a revenue procedure, 2008-16. But we do advise our clients first and foremost to use that property for investment purposes. And if you're going to convert your investment property, you need to follow that safe harbor and own the relinquished property for 2 full years. And at minimum, which is, it's a very simple guideline, to rent it out for 2 weeks at minimum. And for personal use, you get 2 weeks or 10% of the total time you rent it. So the relinquished property, you need to own it for 2 years prior to the exchange, and at minimum rent it out for 2 weeks. You personally, you get 2 weeks or 10% of the total time you rent it. Then when you go to exchange into the replacement property, you need to follow the same guidelines. I call it the 4-year plan. You need to own the relinquished property for 2 years and the replacement property for 2 years. And then you can simply move into that property if you want to make it your personal use property, like a primary, or convert it to a second home. And a lot of my clients, this is kind of a follow-up question to this. If you convert it to a primary, is there some type of taxable event that occurs? And the answer is no, because you haven't had an actual sale. And so you can simply move in. So that's a great question, one that I get quite a bit. And if you subsequently sell that property that came from a 1031, you do need to realize that you need to be on title for a minimum of 5 years, and have lived there for 2.
I get that question all the time, and that last response you just gave me is really interesting, because that's the one clarification I don't think I've ever heard before about the 5 years.
Okay, yeah, and I just one more little tidbit on that. There's a misnomer out there that people think that wipes away your tax obligations forever, and actually it doesn't. You simply get a proration on, yeah, so there's a little, people are like, oh, I thought that wiped away my taxes, and it actually doesn't. So you get a proration on your primary residence exclusion. But if you're interested in learning more about that, I'm going to have a class coming up at the board of soon in April, I believe. Mm-hmm.
Excellent, excellent. So on another note, and another question, because you do this, and it's obvious that you pretty well versed in everything we're talking about. Let me ask you a question. Can an attorney or a banker be a qualified intermediary, or must a qualified intermediary be specifically a licensed intermediary?
Very good question. Surprisingly, our industry of qualified intermediaries are not regulated. Anybody can be an intermediary. So that's a loaded question. You could have an attorney or your CPA be a qualified intermediary, but they can't have represented you in the last 2 years. So my advice to anyone out there that's thinking of doing a 1031 exchange is to vet your qualified intermediary, and especially in these very uncertain times. We're having a lot of people jump into the marketplace. Right before this particular pandemic, this marketplace was very robust. And as you know, as a realtor, we were experiencing wonderful times. And a lot of people were jumping in and being intermediaries. Because we're not regulated, you don't have to take a certain test. You don't have to have any special insurance. So we have a lot of great people that do exchanges, but we also have a lot of bad apples. Do your due diligence, make sure your qualified intermediary has very good bonding, and that they're even affiliated with a larger holding company, because on any given day, our company is holding billions with a B dollars. We pride ourselves on our education and the banks that we use. You want to make sure if your qualified intermediary is holding funds, who do they bank with? What are they doing with your funds? Are they buying mortgage-backed securities, which you don't want them to be doing? Who are the banks that they're banking with? We have a division that just looks, they want to know what are the banks doing with those funds? Are they sitting in deposit accounts? What is your QI doing to make sure your funds are secure? Do you have to sign for those funds? So this is just a little bit of an overview for you to figure out how to vet your qualified intermediary. And so, like I said, if you want to know more about how to do a 1031 exchange, we will be giving a 3-hour CE at the Atlanta Commercial Board of Realtors on April 24th. And Scott, I appreciate this little chat with you.
My pleasure. It's good to get these questions answered, because there's a lot of questions flying around. And, I know that, one of the things you're doing in this crazy time is hosting this next CE you're doing as a live virtual. This is a 3-hour CE class for free, correct?
It is for free. And it'll be a great presentation. It'll be interactive. So everybody can ask questions as we go along, and we will do all the reporting. And the nice thing is, while we're all sheltered during these times, you can be productive, and you can get credits and learn about this great tool that helps brokers develop a great investor client. And even when times are slow, when you're working with investors that do 1031 exchanges, and I was just talking about this yesterday with a client, he had so much gain in his property. It doesn't matter what the rest of the real estate world's doing. He, in his words, he had to do a 1031 exchange. And so this market is very busy still. And so the more you know about the 1031, the more business you can generate, because it's imperative for that particular class of real estate clients that they have to continue doing the 1031 exchange. So it's a don't miss class. And I know that we're going to be holding it, repeatedly. So if you miss that first class on the 21st, we'll be able to you meet your needs, in another 3-hour class.
And you said that's 1 to 4 o'clock on the 21st, correct? That's
correct. 1 to 4, and it will be on Zoom, a great platform to be able to interact with other folks during this unprecedented time. And by the way, when we find out about those extensions for the 45 days and the 180 days, we're going to let everybody know. Generally, it's a 120-day extension to the 45 and 180. We don't know for sure if it's going to be an additional 120 days, making the identification period 165 and the replacement property purchase 300 days. It could be longer. But again, as soon as we know, we will send out something to all of our clients, and we'll let the Atlanta Commercial Board know as well what we find out.
Excellent. And for somebody to get on, and I'm just looking through some of my notes here, for someone, they can go right on the ACBR website and register for this for free, and it looks like it's limited to 50 members.
That's correct. So if it fills up, that's why we plan to do another one. And we want to be able to serve everyone's needs. And again, it's free. And we have some great literature that we're going to provide. We have a great 1031 booklet. It's been a great resource over the years, and that's updated annually. Things change within the tax code. And you may know that they repealed personal property exchanges last year. And so the book's been updated. We have a brochure for folks that speak 10 different languages. Atlanta is a melting pot for folks from all over the world. And as you know, sometimes our clients speak different languages. So we have tailored our brochure. And so we have Russian, Chinese, Japanese, Hindi, Portuguese. I've left out Spanish. And if there's a language that you need, our marketing department will translate it. No joke. So
I only speak English. I guess I'm limited here. So this is awesome, Whitney. This is great information that you've shared. I look forward to sitting in on that CE myself. And thank you so much for joining me today and for all you're doing for our membership and for the ACBR.
Thank you for having me, Scott.
Thank you. Good speaking with you.